My parents had a farm out in Hunter, at that time it was called, and my grandfather had given them 2.5 acres when they were married of his land. And so they planted all fruit trees on it. Peaches and apricots and pears and plums and cherries and apples. Then they had some berry vines and grapes. And we would go out there in the summer every week or so to water it and pick the fruit. And he loved to grow things.
So they farmed. They was have food. They'd have all year long then, or all year long, because they would can what they grew.
And my dad planted a good-sized farm with about 100 trees and about a 1/4-acre garden. And we used to take the water it was our turn for a couple hours every 7 days. 7 days and 7 hours was the repeat time frame. We had a lot of good times out there.
And sometimes we sold the fruit. Most of it was canned and used for our food storage. My mother canned hundreds of jars of fruit. So it was a big job. I remember I hated washing those bottles, but I had to do it when my hand was small enough to fit inside the bottles. Then after it got too big, I was glad I didn't have to wash bottles anymore. We would spend the summer canning peaches and apricots. And, it seemed like it went on forever, but that was an important part of their life. Then when that was sold, he got quite a garden growing in his backyard with fruit trees and vegetables and all kinds of things to eat. His idea was to be very self-sustaining, and his garden helped him do that, and they canned a lot of the fruits and vegetables and kept their family well fed with those.
And the parties were always a big elaborate thing in the backyard. We had a 9x12 white canvas tent, a wall tent, and have circus parties and have all birthdays were some theme that was carried out.
Linda Lovelace and I were friends in school, and she had invited me to a birthday party at her house. So I do remember going to her house and at this birthday party, and of course Sadie was just very gracious and wonderful at this party and made it lots of fun. And I can't remember if Grandpa Lovelace was there or not, but Linda was there, of course.
His birthday was on the 4th of July. And so the 4th of July was always a big celebration at our house. We always watched the fireworks and then had a picnic with all of our family.
It was a talented seamstress. She used to make our clothes and costumes, and there was always a bunch of costumes. Maybe you can remember them.
Yes.
And Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf and the whole bit.
After taking cupcakes to school, which we frosted ourselves, we usually came home with a ribbon for winning the school prize for best costume or ugliest costume, whatever the case may be. We would bring home a brown paper bag of goodies from school. Mom would always sort out and eat black jelly beans and peanuts. In fact, she got all of them. When we arrived home from school and walked into the kitchen, my mother had it full of dough, rolled out and cut out for homemade spudnuts or donuts. The secret was that she put potatoes in the recipe. She would pop them into the grease to fry and turn them over after a few seconds. The donuts were then dipped into a bowl of powdered sugar glaze and set aside to cool. My brothers and sisters always started out as early as possible to go trick-or-treating. We would take an old flour sack for our bag and then head out for a night of fun and frolic. We ran from house to house to get as much candy as possible before it got too dark. We usually came home once to empty the loot and started over again after eating a couple of scrumptious donuts. The candy that I got lasted until Christmas. I even remember hoarding it under the bed. One year, the trick-or-treaters came from as far as the avenues in Salt Lake as the news spread about the handout at our home. Almost everyone would eat the donut right away, rather than putting it in their bag. My mother boasted about giving away 350 donuts one Halloween. Dad was kept busy opening the door for the little and big kids, and Mom was telling everyone to eat the donuts while they were hot. Halloween always brought fond memories to me and my family. I will always cherish them, and to this day it is still one of my favorite holidays.
My son Mike, he makes very elaborate costumes for Halloween for his kids now. So he's a lot like her. They staged a bunch of stunts with this Cine Arts Club, and a lot of his friends were from the Cine Arts Club. And the movie that shows us eating the cake, and then that was one of his Cine Arts Club friends. They did a little skid up to Fairmount Park where a guy backed up with a dummy camera that he made and then fell in the lake. And he was trying to get the picture right. And they did big, extensive planning for these films. And I remember all the sunset pictures, and he would take time to set up shots. And it was very expensive to shoot a 6-minute movie or whatever they were.
Every week there was a ward movie, and the ward members would come, and my friend Leon and I, we took care of the candy booth. And we'd put it in the coat closet and put a table across it and then put the candy out on the table. And that was fun. We would take care of the candy booth, selling the candy. And then you'd go in and watch this movie and go home. They would be, of course, most movies back then were friendly, family friendly, unlike today.
They had a projector that they salvaged out of a chicken coop that was all covered with chicken manure. And it was an arc light. It's back in the days before safety film, when they'd have fires and stuff. And every now and again they'd have a pretty good fire up in the projection booth. If the film would break or the sprockets would strip out, it would stop over the very hot arc light and catch on fire. And that was fun. And it was one of the few ward houses that had a projection booth, and I think every Friday night it was very cheap to get in.